5.8a gives us another way to solve quadratic equations. Remember that when we're solving quadratic equations, on our graph, what points are we looking for? The x-intercepts. All right? So what ways do we have so far to solve these? What on the calculator? Graphing. Okay. That was the first way we learned. Anybody remember the next one? Starts with an F. A. Factoring. Thank you. And then the method that we learned at the end of last week. Completing the square. And then the one we're learning today, which is called Quadratic Formula.
On the test, can we do whatever we want to find the answers?
I don't remember. I think it's probably going to tell you which way to do it, but you'll have at least one of each, and then after that you can probably choose. I don't remember exactly what the test looks like. All right. So quadratic formula, the first thing you need to do is make sure it's in standard form. All right, so standard form just means that everything's on one side and 0 is on the other side. One nice thing about this is, unlike completing the square, you can leave the a how it is. In completing the square, we had to divide the a out, so the a equaled 1. But here we don't have to do that. So that's good. And then you just take the numbers a, b, and c and plug them into this formula, simplify, and that's your answer. There's no moving stuff from one side or the other or creating these new numbers. It's just substitution. You're just plugging into this. A lot of people like this better. Okay? So, for this first example, is it in standard form? Almost. What do we need to move? The 2. So subtract that to the other side. We get 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals 0. So based on that, what does A equal? What does B equal? And C? -2. So those are 3 numbers that we're going to plug in. Now, one common mistake that people make is they only put the fraction underneath the second part of the numerator, but really it's under the entire thing. Okay, so make sure that it's one big fraction. So on top it's negative b, so that's negative times -5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so -5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is -2. Excuse me. Alright, so all I did was fill in b, a, and c into this top part. Now in the bottom we have 2 times a, so that'll be 2 times 3. From here we simplify. So what's negative times -5? +5 plus or minus -5 squared. Positive 25. That is also a common mistake, is that people forget that the negative also has to be squared. So whatever that number is, when you simplify it, it should always be positive when it comes out. Okay, and then what's -4 times 3? What's -12 times -2? +24. Yeah. And then on bottom, 2 times 3 gives us 6. What is 25 plus 24? 49. So we have 5 plus or minus square root of 49 all over 6. What's square root of 49? 7. Are 5 and 7 like terms? Yes, so we can split it into using the plus and using the minus. So that'd be 5 plus 7 over 6 and 5 minus 7 over 6. What's 5 plus 7? What? It's 2, so x equals 2. On the other one, what is 5 minus 7? What's negative 2 over 6 reduced?
1 over 3.
Negative 1 over 3. There are your answers. 2 and negative 1 over 3. Those are the x-intercepts, or we can also call them the zeros or the roots of that quadratic equation. Any questions? Who likes this better than completing the square? At least some of you. All right. If you don't have any questions, let's keep going and do the next one. What do we need to do first? Want to move the 2x squared to the other side? Okay. I didn't mean to write on that. So we'll subtract it. So we get 0 equals negative 2x squared minus x minus 7. So what does our a equal? What does our b equal? Negative 1, right? What does the c equal? Negative 7. All right. I'll rewrite the formula so we have it down here. I'll give this formula to you on the test. You don't have to memorize it. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's just so we can see it on the screen. All right, so fill it in. X equals big fraction negative b, so negative times negative 1, plus or minus square root b squared, so negative 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is negative 2, times c, which is negative 7. It's the only place c gets used. And then 2 times a, which is negative 2 on bottom.
Positive 1.
All right, we got positive 1. Plus or minus, what's negative 1 squared? Positive 1. Okay, and then negative 4 times negative 2. Positive 8 times negative 7.
Negative 56.
Negative 56 is right. Remember, your calculator is helpful on those pieces if it gets jumbled. Over negative 4. Okay? Okay, so inside the square root, it's negative 55 over negative 4. I'm going to kind of separately think about negative square root of negative 55. That's negative 55 times square root of negative 1. What does 55 break down into?
11 and 5.
11 and 5. Can we break those down anymore? No. So square root of 55 stays, but what does the square root of negative 1 become? I. So our answer will be x equals 1 plus or minus I square root of 55 all over negative 4. Those aren't like terms, so we can't combine them. Now, one thing, just a thought here, is all of the numbers that we plugged in were negative, right? Which was a little confusing to deal with, or a little complicated. If we had, in the very beginning, instead of moving the 2x squared over, if we would have moved the other 2 over, we would have had all positive numbers. You come out to the same answer, but it maybe would have been a little less of a hassle to deal with. So you can do it whichever way you want, but just telling you that might be something you want to think about. Is if the A, B, and C values are positive, it just makes it a little less jumbled looking. Any questions over the quadratic formula and plugging into it? Make sure that if you can combine these, that you do it. And also, if you can reduce the real numbers with the denominator, look for that too. All right, you have 10 problems for your homework, all similar to this.